If there's three things we know an AEW fan hates, it's WWE, basic math, and me. So this can only go well, right? What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here to bring you what it says on the tin, a YWC Reality Check. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can compare AEW and WWE. I mean, you can boil it down to success and dwindling towards failure, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to go back to the days of the Wednesday Night War, when I actually gave AEW credit, and I said there was a pretty good trade-off. I mean, we were talking about ratings and all that kind of thing. The one thing I maintained is that while NXT owned women's wrestling at the time, because WWE was not as good as it is now, NXT owned women's wrestling the same way AEW owned tag team wrestling. And that was a hands-down thing. That was an absolutely hands-down thing. You couldn't touch tag team wrestling for what AEW was doing. Now, that's not true anymore, but the other side of the equation is still true. The fact that they do one women's match a week has become a pun, has become a cliche, has become a joke, to the point where it's not even worth saying anymore. So, just don't talk about AEW and their women's division unless you're talking about, like, oh, they could do this better, they could do that better, suggestions for improvement, open topics for discussion and all that kind of thing. But not only are people coming out and saying that AEW is the haven for women's wrestling, not only is, and I'm really going to try and not make this a Sasha Banks thing, but not only is Sasha Banks going out on socials and in interviews having the gall to say that All In this year, with 4 women on the card and 2 women shunted to the kickoff in a mixed tag that doesn't make any sense, is the preeminent showcase for women's wrestling. There's also people coming at WWE because the first time in a while there is a little bit less women's content on the upcoming Bash in Berlin show. Now, Bash in Berlin hasn't happened yet, and I don't have any estimates for it, so it's not going to be included in what we're saying today. But are you people on crack? Are you people on crack? Yes, there's only technically one women's match on the Bash in Berlin card, and it is a mixed tag, but it's involving potentially one of the main characters of the company right now, if you want to argue that. Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes. Those are your main characters in WWE right now. The way a lot of people swear up and down in AEW that no matter what's going on, Hangman is the main character, which I think is a bit odd, but I'll take that at face value. Those are your main characters, yes. So, no, there's not a lot of women's wrestling specifically booked for the Berlin show. There is a women's tag match now that has been added since this diatribe has gone on social media. But even if that wasn't the case, one of the main characters in your company is Rhea Ripley. So there is a counterbalance to that, and saying that All In is the preeminent, oh my god, this is a showcase, we should look at this like it's an evolution, and they land on that word because WWE was the company that did an all-female pay-per-view. But I could speak from bias, I could speak from, hey, this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is my opinion, da-da-da-da-da. You guys hear me, or me and Jake, or if I ever get Guapo on here. Universally, the women's wrestling is pretty damn good in WWE right now. Now, are they doing everything they should do? No, there's always room for improvement. Are they at a 50-50? Absolutely not, but they're way closer to a 50-50 than, I would say, most other companies. Maybe TNA is in that conversation as well. But I didn't want to come to you and just be like, rah, 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 WWE's awesome, WWE's the best, AEW's in the mud, even though it is. I wanted to come up and talk to you guys in a way that's quantifiable, that's measurable, that's observable, and that you can't argue with, quite frankly, because, and I hate to say this, and it is a quote from MJF, who is a guy from AEW, and it's been used in very questionable ways in a lot of political conversations recently as well, but it is absolutely true. Facts don't care about your feelings. Now, I would love to turn this into a ratings conversation. I'm not going to do that because I'm not talking about week-to-week television. Week-to-week, AEW puts on one women's match a week, or a women's match and a squash to try and break that up. Now, they've main evented Dynamite, I think, a grand total of twice in the 5 years that they've existed, so I'll give them all the credit in the world for that. But the week-to-week conversation is a boring one. The ratings thing you just get into a conversation about, oh, well, not everybody's watching at the same time and some people stream and blah, blah, blah. It's not an apples to apples comparison. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be looking specifically at pay-per-views, but you can't look at it as an apples to apples in that situation either, because one has a buy rate and one just has people on the network, because WWE is a grown-up company that actually has their own network. AEW doesn't have that. I mean, even TNA, that everybody likes to mock. I come up here and talk about TNA a lot, but TNA has their own streaming service. I just got on TNA Plus. TNA Plus is pretty fucking good. Actually, their library is fucking ridiculous. But, so you can't compare buy rates to subscriptions, especially when some people are watching it on the network, some people are watching it on Peacock, some people are waiting for Netflix, etc., etc., etc. Nobody's getting it on, like, Fight or anything like that. So that's not a good comparison. The only comparison that I can draw for you guys that is an equal apples-to-apples comparison as far as the representation of women's wrestling on these two shows is the following. If you want to talk about representation, you want to talk about, was somebody put out there at all? Yes or no? And how many people saw them. I've got a female star. Did I put them on the show tonight or not? When I put them on the show, did I give them a stage that people wanted to see? Were people out there in the audience to see them when I put them out there? So, the calculation that I have here going on is amount of women featured on the show, and that's women in matches, not, Toni Storm's out there and Mariah May's in her corner, so we count her. No, it's participants in matches, how many women participated in matches on the show, and how many people saw them, aka what was the attendance. So, every show that I talk about, and nobody's going to like this, it's just going to be a math podcast, and if you don't want to listen to that, especially because you know it's not going to go your way, beg and plead. Go on, go find something else. Me and Jake have done a lot of State of Wrestling podcasts in the past little while that are much more positive than this one. A pay-per-view or a PLE's total score in this equation is number of women featured on the card times the attendance. So let's go, because we're going to go through some WWE stuff. I'm going to throw some big numbers at you, and then we're going to get into the AEW comparison, so you're going to have to bear with me. This is why it's not a video podcast, because this is why I'm keeping it as an audio, I should say. Because if this was a video, this would just be, you'd be looking at me, eyes down on my paperwork because I've done the thing. Now, I should say, for reference, my reference here, with the exception of one entry, and you'll understand why when I get there, with the exception of one entry, all the information here is from the same place. It's all from Wikipedia. It's all from the WWE and AEW Wikipedia pages, so it's not like I'm getting Jeff's opinion on AEW and Joe's opinion of WWE. It's all coming from the same place. It's the only fair way to do it. It's where I'm getting the card listings. It's where I'm getting the actual attendances. And it's attendances as of today, as of August 24th, day before All In. It's how it's listed today, because I know on Wikipedia it fluctuates. So I'm giving you all the focal points. I'm giving you all the points of reference so that you can see I'm just giving you bare numbers. So bear with me here for a second. We're looking at 2024. Got to start with the Royal Rumble. There were no singles matches, but there was a 30-woman Royal Rumble. So you have 30 women on the card, times an attendance of 48,044 per Wikipedia, for a total grand score for the Royal Rumble of 1,441,320. Moving on to NXT Vengeance Day, we get much smaller numbers. Obviously, 2 matches consisting of 5 women, 3,970 in attendance for a score of 19,850. Elimination Chamber out there in Perth, out there in Rhea Ripley Land, where Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax main evented the show. Remember, it's a nice idea. Let the ladies main event the show every now and then. 3 matches, 12 women, 52,590 in attendance for a score of 631,080. NXT Stand and Deliver, oi 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 if you're a What Culture fan. 2 women's matches consisting of 8 women, an attendance of 16,545 for a score of 132,360. WrestleMania, and here's where we get into the stickly bits here. Yes, I'm giving a total attendance, because that's how many tickets were bought for WrestleMania that weekend. If 2 people bought 2 tickets for 2 separate nights, you would count it as 2 tickets. If 1 person bought 2 tickets for 2 nights, they still bought 2 tickets. Eat a dick if you disagree with me and argue with the wall. 3 matches consisting of 10 women, for an attendance currently listed at 120,239 for a massive score, the second biggest score on the page, 1,202,390. Backlash in France, 2 matches in front of an insane crowd, if you remember, featuring 7 different women in an attendance of only 11,682 for a total score of 81,774. Now, King and Queen of the Ring, gotta caveat this with the fact that this is in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. WWE Saudi shows. I know we've got another one coming up this year, but it hasn't happened yet, so meh. 3 matches, 8 women. An attendance that was listed on Wikipedia as estimated at 20,000, so it's going to be a nice and easy score of 160,000 people. Now, here's where WWE gets a bad number, and people are going to land on it. People have used it as a feasting method all this year. NXT Battleground Las Vegas at the UFC Apex. Tiny building. It was a crossover. It was a, hey, look at WWE and UFC working together. So the number's kind of terrible. 3 matches consisting of 10 women, not to mention the fact, kind of like the Royal Rumble, where you have to bring into account the fact that they had Jade Cargill burst onto the scene. They had Naomi make her return for people that care about that. And you had the crossover of Jordan Grace, which has led nicely and neatly into the NXT&A system of exchanges that we have now. In the Apex was a lot of fun as well. It was corporate synergy stuff, but still 3 matches, 10 women, awesome ladder match to introduce the Women's North American Championship. We had the fight pit, not the fight pit, the NXT Underground match that brought Shayna Baszler back down from the main roster. A lot of fun, 10 women, but only an audience of 697. I thought it was whack myself, I'm not going to lie. So the score for that show, unfortunately, drops down to 6,970. But we go back up. Clash at the Castle, 2 matches featuring 8 women in front of an audience of 11,391 for a score of 91,128. Money in the Bank and Heatwave. If you guys recall, I might have mentioned it once or twice. I was there. It was fucking electric, and it was awesome. Now, only 1 match, but it was the signature match. It was Money in the Bank. 6 women times an attendance of 19,858 for a score of 119,148. Heatwave. Much smaller, I will say. Yes, there was tarps on the other side. It is what it is, but they still tried to fill the fucking Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. 3 matches consisting of 8 women in front of an audience of only 9,132 for a score of 73,056. Most recently, just past SummerSlam, only 2 matches, only 4 women, but in front of an audience of 57,791 for a grand total score of 231,164. Obviously, the 2 biggest the 2 biggest scores are going to be Rumble and Mania. Again, I'll say Rumble with a total score of 1,441,320, and WrestleMania with a score of 1,202,390. Massive numbers, just a bunch of number soup that I've just thrown at you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch it over to AEW's side, because they've done less shows, and I'm not going to dig at them for doing less shows. It would be very easy for me to say, look, WWE and NXT have done this many shows. Clearly, they've shown more women over the course of the year because they've done more shows. That would be a shit thing. That would be an argument not made in good faith, shall we say. I'm looking at individual shows per individual shows. So we're trying to keep it as fair as we possibly can. AEW, Revolution, 2 women's matches consisting of 6 women in front of a crowd of 16,878 for a score of 101,268, meaning it was beaten out by 6 WWE shows and an NXT show. Stand and Deliver. Let's be real. Stand and Deliver is the highest score for an NXT show because it was the biggest show. Move on to Dynasty. 2 matches featuring 4 women in front of a crowd of only 6,619 for a score of 26,476. What does that mean in the long run? What does that mean for our comparison point here? That means it was beaten by 8 WWE shows and 2 NXT shows. Double or Nothing, 3 matches. Woo! 3 matches featuring only 6 women in front of a crowd of only 9,000 people gets you a score of 54,000 even, which means it was beaten out by, once again, 8 WWE shows, and it was beaten by 2 NXT shows. Forbidden Door, 4 matches. Let's fucking go. Featuring 8 women in front of a crowd of only 11,000 people gets you a score of 88,000, and it was beaten by 7 WWE shows and 1 NXT show, obviously being NXT Stand and Deliver. Oi, oi, oi. Now, the last one that I'm going to mention is the only one that I did not get from Wikipedia, because I can't get it from Wikipedia because it hasn't happened yet. Very, very clearly, the biggest show they're going to do is tomorrow. So I have to go hypothetical. I have to go by an estimation and a prediction here. I got it from WrestleTix, so shout out to WrestleTix, shout out to Wikipedia for the rest of the information I've given you right here, right now. Hypothetically, right now on the card, we have 3 matches featuring 6 women in front of an estimated audience of 50,859 for a total score of 305,000 people, 305,154. Great score. Blows all their other scores out of the water. It's still beaten by Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. It still falls short. And that's if the estimation on the attendance is accurate, because we know how well that went last year. So, your biggest show, or prospected to be your biggest show, has your biggest female representation success rate score, if that's what you want to call it, and it's still beaten by 3 other shows, by quite a bit. This is 305,000. 2 of WWE's shows had scores in the million. The rest of them were beaten by 7 or 8 WWE shows and some NXT stuff. I'm not even including ROH in this because it just wouldn't be fair. Can we say, feel how you want to feel, like the show you want to like the wrestlers you want to like. I don't dislike the ladies in AEW just because they're in AEW. I wish they were treated better. I wish they were platformed more. But can we get off the denial? Can we stop sucking Mercedes Moné's ass? Can we just say that for now, and this is the other part, I'm saying for now, anything can change at any given time. For now, the conversation about female representation in pro wrestling between AEW and WWE isn't a conversation because it's not even close. Not even close. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.